The ballroom glittered with everything money could buy. Diamonds catching chandelier light. Tailored suits. Practiced smiles that never quite reached the eyes. This was New York's elite, gathered for the night's biggest event, and at the center of it all stood Liam Hawthorne, tall, commanding, untouchable, the kind of man who made a room feel smaller just by walking into it. Beside him was Sabrina Ellis, his girlfriend, an up-and-coming actress dressed in emerald green, laughing at something only she found funny. Liam smiled where he was supposed to smile, shook the hands he was supposed to shake, and then, across the crowded room, something stopped him cold. A waitress, balancing a tray of champagne with careful, practiced precision, thinner than he remembered, paler, but he knew that face better than his own reflection. It was Evelyn, his ex-wife, and she was pregnant. For one suspended moment, the music, the voices, the clinking glasses, all of it disappeared. All Liam could see was a woman he'd once been married to, now serving drinks at the party where he was a guest of honor, carrying a child he didn't know existed. "Liam, are you okay?" Sabrina's voice snapped him back. He lied, said he was thinking about his speech. But his eyes never really left Evelyn again. For a brief second, across that crowded ballroom, their eyes met, and what he saw in her face wasn't just shock. It was fear, the kind of fear that comes from a secret being seen for the very first time. She looked away fast, disappearing toward the kitchen, and Liam felt something twist violently in his chest. Whose baby was that? How had the woman he once knew, sharp, brilliant, fiercely independent, ended up here, like this? And why did some small, insistent voice inside him refuse to let the question go? He was about to find out that this wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't bad luck. And by the end of tonight, he wouldn't be the only one asking questions, because someone else already knew exactly who Evelyn was, and exactly why she was standing in that room. Liam couldn't focus on anything else for the rest of the night. He smiled for photographs. He shook the hands of investors. But his mind kept circling back to that pale, tired face and the unmistakable curve of her stomach. When he finally slipped away from the crowd, he went looking for her, and he found her in a narrow hallway near the kitchen, leaning against the wall, catching her breath like she'd been holding herself together by sheer will alone. Liam! Just his name, and already her voice was trembling. "Evelyn, what are you doing here? What's going on?" His voice was sharper than he meant it to be. "And that baby, is it?" She wouldn't answer. Not yet. She told him this wasn't the place, that some things couldn't be explained in 5 minutes, that she owed him nothing. And maybe she was right. But Liam wasn't a man who walked away from unanswered questions, and he wasn't about to start now. "You're here working as a waitress," he said, "in a room that should have been yours. Pregnant. How exactly am I supposed to ignore that?" That's when her composure finally broke. "I lost everything, Liam," she whispered, tears rising. I tried so hard, but no one would give me a chance. Your name followed me everywhere. Your shadow. There isn't a single place I go where I'm not just Liam Hawthorne's ex-wife. It ruined my life." Her words landed like a blow he didn't see coming. He had always assumed she'd walk away from a marriage with more than enough to rebuild. She'd even turned down a large settlement, insisting she'd do it on her own. He'd admired that. Now he wondered if it had cost her everything. She tried to walk away before he could ask about the baby. He let her go, for now. But something told him this was only the beginning of a much bigger truth. And he was right. By morning, Liam had already used her connections to track down the small events agency Evelyn worked for, and from there, an address. It was an impulsive move, nothing like his usual calculated self, but he couldn't stop himself. When he arrived, Evelyn was leaving her building with a folder of papers, exhaustion written across her face. The moment she saw him, the color drained from her cheeks. "You followed me." "I want answers, Evelyn, and if you won't give them to me, I'll find them myself." She tried to send him away. Asked why now, after all this time, he suddenly cared. And Liam gave her the only honest answer he had. "Because something doesn't add up. You're pregnant. You've lost everything. And you're hiding something from me." And then, finally, the words she'd been holding back for months came out. "The baby is yours." Silence. The kind that changes a person permanently. Liam stood frozen, the pieces of a puzzle he never knew existed suddenly rearranging themselves in front of him. If the child was his, why had she said nothing? Why choose to struggle completely alone rather than ask him, the father, for help? "I didn't want you to know," Evelyn said, her voice breaking. "Not after everything. I knew you'd try to control it, like you tried to control everything else. I didn't want our child to become another piece of your obsession with power." It cut deep, because some part of him knew she wasn't entirely wrong. But he was about to learn something that would change everything he thought he understood about how his marriage, and Evelyn's entire life, had fallen apart. And it had nothing to do with pride, and everything to do with revenge. If you're just joining this story, here's where we are. A powerful CEO has just discovered his pregnant ex-wife working as a waitress at his own event, and the child she's carrying is his. But what he doesn't know yet is that her downfall wasn't an accident. Someone made sure of it. Stay with me, because the reason why is about to turn this entire story upside down. The silence between them was suffocating. Liam, a man who had spent his entire adult life in complete control, suddenly felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally asked, quieter than before. Evelyn clutched her folder to her chest like armor. "I wanted to protect my child," she said. "From you, from your life, from your need to control everything around you. This baby isn't part of your world, Liam. I did what I thought was right." The accusation stung because it held truth. During their marriage, he had dominated nearly every decision, certain he always knew best. But this was different. This was his child. "You think cutting me out is the answer," he shot back. "I have a right to know, Evelyn. This isn't about control. This is about a child. My child." "Do you really think you could be a good father?" she asked quietly. "With your endless meetings, your inability to step away from the company for even a single day, how exactly would you make room for a child in the middle of all that?" He had no answer, because she wasn't wrong, and they both knew it. But then Evelyn said something that changed the entire shape of the conversation. "This isn't just about the baby, Liam. Do you think I chose to end up here? Working as a waitress, barely surviving? I didn't have a choice. After the divorce, job offers fell through with no explanation. Contracts were canceled overnight. My reputation in the industry was destroyed piece by piece. It wasn't bad luck. It was deliberate." Liam's mind raced. "You're saying someone did this to you? On purpose? Who?" Evelyn closed her eyes, like she needed courage just to say the name. "Sebastian Royce." The name hit like a bombshell. Sebastian Royce, one of Liam's most ruthless business rivals, a man infamous for cutthroat tactics and old grudges that never seemed to fade. They had clashed for years, and Liam had always suspected there was something personal buried beneath the professional rivalry. Now he understood exactly how personal it had become. "Why?" Liam asked. "What does he have to do with any of this?" Evelyn looked at him directly. "Because he knew that destroying me would be the best way to hurt you. He wanted you to feel guilty every single day. He wanted me to be a permanent reminder of what you left behind." Rage rose in Liam like nothing he'd felt before. He'd known Sebastian was ambitious, even cruel in negotiations, but he never imagined he'd go this far, sabotaging an innocent woman's entire life just around a rival. In the days that followed, Liam quietly began investigating everything Evelyn had told him. Using every contact and resource available to him, he discovered a disturbing pattern. Nearly every company that had rejected Evelyn in recent months had hidden ties to Sebastian Royce. This wasn't misfortune. It was a calculated campaign designed to leave her with absolutely nowhere to turn. Evelyn still resisted his help at every step, insisting she could handle things alone, the same fierce independence that had first drawn Liam to her all those years ago. But this time, Liam refused to back down. In a rare, unguarded moment, Evelyn finally admitted just how much the secret had cost her. "I thought hiding the baby from you would be easier," she confessed. "But it's consumed me every single day, Liam. I keep wondering how different things might have been if we'd never fallen apart in the first place." Her honesty nearly broke him. He'd had no idea how deeply their separation had wounded her, or how much she had silently sacrificed trying to protect the child she believed needed protecting from him most of all. We're about 8 minutes in now, and this is exactly where the story shifts from heartbreak into something bigger. Because what Liam discovers next isn't just about revenge for what Royce did to Evelyn. It's about a much larger plan already in motion, one that could destroy everything Liam has built. Keep watching, because the confrontation that's coming is a moment this entire story has been building toward. As Liam dug deeper, one crucial detail emerged that made his blood run cold. Royce hadn't simply destroyed Evelyn's reputation out of spite. He had personally purchased the very company where Evelyn had been on the verge of a major promotion right before the divorce, engineering her termination without cause. Every piece of her downfall traced directly back to him. But there was more. Royce was preparing to launch a massive new project, one that directly threatened one of Hawthorne Enterprises' most important contracts. Destroying Evelyn hadn't just been personal cruelty, it had been strategy. A calculated move to destabilize Liam both personally and professionally, while Royce positioned himself to seize control of the market. Liam knew he had to act. But this fight was no longer only about beating a business rival. He wanted to prove to Evelyn that he could be more than the man who had once let his company come before everything else. And more than anything, he wanted to make sure their child's future would never be shadowed by his past mistakes. Slowly, carefully, the distance between Liam and Evelyn began to close. Despite everything, despite her pride and her scars, a small flicker of trust started to return. But Sebastian Royce was not a man who surrendered easily. The real battle was still ahead. Sitting alone in his boardroom, surrounded by evidence of everything Royce had done, the sabotage contracts, the manipulated companies, the broken alliances, Liam felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel: fury with a purpose. Every document in front of him confirmed what Evelyn had told him, and it was, in every sense, a declaration of war. He knew that beating Royce meant fighting on two fronts at once: undoing the damage already done to Evelyn, and stopping Royce before he could execute his plan against Hawthorne Enterprises. This was the moment Liam had to become more than a CEO. He had to become a protector, a father, and perhaps, if he was lucky, something more to Evelyn again. He called an emergency meeting with his board and closest allies, laying out everything Royce had done, including using Evelyn as a pawn in his private war. "He didn't just attack my company," Liam told them, his voice steady with conviction none of them had heard from him before. "He attacked my family." The room went silent. No one had ever seen this side of him. Working quickly and carefully, Liam's team uncovered hard evidence of bribery and illegal contracts tied directly to Royce. Evelyn, hesitant at first, eventually agreed to help, handing over emails and documents she had quietly kept for months, never imagining they would one day become the key to everything. "If this goes wrong, he'll come after me," she warned. Liam took her hands in his and looked her in the eyes. "It won't go wrong. Not this time. And I will not let him touch you or our child." For the first time since their divorce, Evelyn let herself believe that the man standing in front of her might truly have changed. The night that would decide everything finally arrived. Royce had organized a lavish press conference to unveil his newest venture, a clean energy company designed to make headlines around the world. Reporters and investors filled the room. It was the perfect stage, and Liam intended to use it. When Liam walked in with Evelyn at his side, Royce's practiced composure faltered instantly. "Liam," he said, forcing a smile, "surprised to see you here, and with company." "Wouldn't miss a chance to watch your little spectacle end," Liam replied calmly. Before Royce could recover, Liam handed a folder directly to a journalist in the front row. Inside was every piece of evidence they had gathered: the bribes, the fraud, and the deliberate, calculated sabotage of an innocent woman's life, all in service of hurting a business rival. As the journalist read the details aloud, the room fell into stunned silence. Royce tried to explain himself, but there was no explanation strong enough. Within minutes, his composure collapsed into panic, and he was forced to leave the event in complete disgrace, his reputation and his influence gone in a single night. With Royce finally out of the picture, Liam turned back to the only thing that mattered now. "I know this doesn't erase the past," he told Evelyn, his voice quiet and sincere, "but I want to do the right thing. Not just for you, for our child. I was a fool not to see what really mattered before. I won't make that mistake again." Evelyn studied him for a long moment, weighing every word against everything she'd survived to protect herself and her baby. "I don't know if I can trust you again," she admitted softly. "But for him, for our son, I'm willing to try." It wasn't everything, But for Liam, it was enough to start with. Months later, Evelyn gave birth to a healthy baby boy they named Henry. Liam was right there beside her, holding her hand as their son let out his very first cry, a moment that changed something permanent in him. Holding his son for the first time, he felt something he had never experienced in any boardroom or business deal in his life. Something real. "I still don't know what the future holds," Evelyn said quietly, exhausted but smiling. "But at least now," Liam answered, "we know we're not alone." There was still a long road ahead, rebuilding trust, learning to be present in a way he never had been before, becoming the kind of man his son could look up to. But for the first time in years, Liam felt like he was exactly where he was always meant to be, in that quiet hospital room, surrounded by the soft, steady sound of new life. He made himself one silent promise. He would fight for this family with the same relentless determination he had once reserved only for his empire. Because now, more than anything else he had ever built, they were his entire world.